Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. And thank you especially to the people who make this possible for you every single day with their support at patreon.com/SW7x7. All right, we did our first Jedi Business episode related to the Acolyte last week. Now we're going to do our second one. We were able to look at multiple weeks worth of ratings because, as we talked about in the previous Jedi Business episode, it's not just Nielsen's game anymore. There are a lot of other people who are doing measurement of streaming data. Among them is this company called Luminate, which Variety has contracted with, and I guess they're owned by the same parent company. And I guess some hay had been made around the idea of the Acolyte falling out of the top 10 and that being a sign of people not liking it, you know, and all this stuff that people like to try to raise everybody's hackles about. But we talked in the previous episode about how, we're not really comparing apples to apples. And so I did my best to try to get closer to that kind of situation. Well, you might not be surprised to hear that it's still not in Luminate's top 10, but there are still a lot of reality TV shows that are in their top 10 that kind of push it down. However, Samba TV, they put out their own top 10 list, and I could not find the one for the week ending June 30th. I don't know where that is, but the one that they've published for the week ending July 7th, the Acolyte's fallen out of the top 10 of that one too. So yeah, that's a little troubling. But as we've talked about, they also have movies in their top 10 list. And if we're comparing apples to apples, well, then we got to remove the movies from the equation. So there's still a chance that it's in the top 10 from streaming. And that is still the case with other outlets like Real Good and Just Watch and Nielsen. They all have the Acolyte still in the top 10. For Just Watch, from July 7th to July 14th, the Acolyte dropped from 5th to 7th, and there were a couple of new series that debuted, so maybe that has something to do with it. Real Good has them dropping from number 6 to number 8 for the week ending July 3rd to the week ending July 10th, so yeah, same kind of situation there. And Nielsen, which is far behind everybody else because they take a long time to do their reporting, they actually have the Acolyte up, but again, it's for an earlier period of time. It's for the period ending June 16th when there were only 3 episodes of the Acolyte out instead of 7 episodes like everybody else. So yeah, the Acolyte in their streaming rankings jumped from number 7 to number 6 for the week ending June 9th to the week ending June 16th. And I talked briefly last time too about looking at other Star Wars series and trying to get a sense of how the Acolyte is performing compared to it. And yeah, it's a little hard to say because there's so much data that we don't know. Like, for example, when we have, a current Nielsen reporting where 3 episodes of the Acolyte are available, how much of the minutes viewed are actually just minutes viewed of that 3rd episode versus how many people are watching the 1st and 2nd episode, whether they're rerunning it or watching it brand new in that new weekly period. I've heard 80% thrown around as a rule of thumb. So in the case of the Acolyte, the 370 million minutes that were viewed in the week ending June 16th, that 80% of those minutes should apply only to the 3rd episode. And considering it from that possible metric and then looking at what the first 2 episodes were like and then looking at the data that I've been tracking for the other Star Wars series, I think I have everything except for season 1 of The Mandalorian. The Acolyte is running on the low side of shows. There's only one show that actually had fewer viewers in its first 3 episodes, and that's Andor. And that is kind of amazing when you think about it, just because of the fact that Andor at least had a movie that it was based on, which, if you're talking about things that might percolate in the pop culture consciousness, right? Certainly movies are going to be higher up in people's awareness than, say, books and comics, which is where the High Republic has sat entirely up until the Acolyte has shown up, or almost entirely, right? Yes, I know there's been manga and there's been stuff in virtual reality and there have been little tidbits in video games and whatnot, but I think you get the point. So in actuality, I guess it's kind of so far showing up where I expected it to be, right? I certainly didn't expect it to be performing better than the Book of Boba Fett or the Obi-Wan Kenobi series because of the name recognition of those two characters. I didn't necessarily expect it to be performing better than either season 2 or 3 of The Mandalorian, Mandalorian, because again, that had, you know, a lot running for it as well. And then, you know, there's the Ahsoka series. Again, name recognition situation there too. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Nielsen's continue over, you know, the course of the next episodes, especially when we get to episode 5 of The Acolyte, because of the craziness that inspired with the revelation of Darth Chimera and all that stuff. So far, so good, ultimately. I think it's doing all right. And so that's what I've got for you on our next Jedi Business update related to the performance of The Acolyte in streaming ratings, and that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoy the show, please help me help more people get this into their lives. You can do that by just telling people you know. You can do that by leaving ratings and reviews and likes and comments, and you can subscribe and join and follow on your favorite apps and whatnot. And you can even help me produce this daily dose of Star Wars joy as an independent creator, and you can learn more about that at patreon.com/SW7x7. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.